Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now, in-game textures, the quality texture settings you choose, whether it be low, high, medium, ultra, will depend on how clean, crisp and detailed a lot of the assets look. For example, in games like Red Dead Redemption 2, the difference between low textures and ultra textures is night and day. And I always say that if you have a graphics card that can handle ultra textures but not much else, crank them right up and the game is going to look fantastic. Other games, well, there is less of a difference between low and ultra. Titles such as Fallout 4, and I think that's where a great modding community comes in because they have done some fantastic jobs with turning muddy and perhaps low resolution textures into high quality ones that can really transform the game. I'd like to ask you to cast your minds back to 2016, or let's say 2017 for this video, because it wasn't just modders that were having a go at improving this still excellent and very popular title. This game still sits within the top 100 most played games on Steam, so that's partly why I wanted to cover it today. But let's get into the main topic of this video. In 2017, a year and a bit after the launch of Fallout 4, was when Bethesda released this piece of DLC, the High Resolution Texture Pack. On its own, Fallout 4 is a 27.49GB download on Steam, or 36.23 with all the expansions. The high-res texture pack here is a separate 55.1 gig download, and 5 years ago my internet would have taken a right beating trying to handle this, so I never bothered. It's not like the reviews changed my mind either. One user wrote, texture never changes. Another simply said 55GB, ha 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 ha. The angry Australian who said, me Bethesda, summed their experience up nicely. I have to say though, that makes it look gooder finally persuaded me to give it a go in 2022. It's true the differences are subtle, and I'd be surprised if you can pick them up after upload and compression, but I have to say that they are there, and more noticeable if you are playing at a higher resolution. I've uploaded in 4K today, so that you can hopefully see the differences I'm talking about. Here are a few comparative screenshots I took during my gameplay session. Some are zoomed in a bit to try and highlight the differences, but I think that this texture pack is more easily appreciated when you are playing and there are lots more assets on screen at once. Hopefully you can pick up a few changes in these 4K pics. Feel free to pause the video, and if you're like me, a 70-year-old inside a 28-year-old's body, get your glasses on for a closer look. Now don't get me wrong, these textures can be way more subtle in places than others, and some textures seemingly missed the overhaul treatment altogether. But the high-res texture pack is free, and if you've got the space you should consider downloading it if you plan on another playthrough of Fallout 4 in 2022. Don't let these scary sounding system requirements put you off either. With all that said, if you are comfortable with modding, I certainly suggest taking a look at some community created texture tweaks, a lot of which will potentially look better and take up less storage. Why then am I looking back at this texture pack? Well, firstly because I needed something of a filler video before some PC parts arrive tomorrow, and secondly because of this game's aforementioned and continued popularity. People are still buying this and playing it, and because a lot of those will probably wonder if they should dedicate an extra 55GB of space to this add-on, I thought we'd take a look at the performance with a handful of modern graphics cards. Now back in the day, a GTX 1060 was in its prime, and although it's accompanied by more modern components today, it does still see a little dip in performance with this pack installed, though it isn't a huge difference. The 6 gigs of VRAM helps it out here, and perhaps the most noticeable change in the frame rate is with the 0.1% low, which indicated that there are a few more hiccups and stutters with this pack enabled. I've had to uncap the frame rate for these tests to get a true reading, and doing this can cause a few graphical glitches and oddities with the physics if said frame rate gets too high. I found this out when I tested the 3060 Ti. There are no problems running the game at Ultra with the high-res textures at higher resolutions, but the game is just all over the place. It's actually pretty funny, really. I mean, what the hell was that? What just happened? More modest cards like the RTX 3050 will do okay too, though there will be more frequent dips below 60 and the VRAM usage will pretty much double. The frame rate is still uncapped, but it's not running at a high enough number where the physics are just obliterated like before. The laser rifle does shoot a little bit fast, but that's fine, and if you left the default cap in place, you wouldn't even feel a performance difference here. This is actually what I'd suggest, to be honest. Now though, we must go even lower. How does the controversial AMD RX 6400 handle this controversial texture pack? This is one of the worst cards, I guess you could say, to come out recently, but it does okay in PCIe 4.0 systems. With default ultra settings, it's nearly maxed out VRAM wise anyway, considering it has just 4 gigs of GDDR6. The high-res textures would love to have access to more than this, but they don't, unfortunately, and the average performance is still alright, but the 1.1% lows suffer a bit, so more slowdown and stutter here and there. Nothing unplayable, but it's a noticeable difference in busier and more populated areas. We're sort of limited to 1080p for 60 FPS too, and at this point the changes are a little less noticeable, but again, it is free content, and in my opinion, you might as well try it if you have the space, power and bandwidth to spare. But that's all for this one. Let me know what you think of Fallout 4's high-res texture pack in 2022 and whether or not you've tried it with your entry-level graphics card. How does it look? How does it play? As always, if you enjoyed this one, leave a like on it down below. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.